in the hinterlands.
Yes, exactly. Like
So I just have to dig myself out to 63. I'll be fine.
Where the wolves roam.
The only very small headache was wiping the snow off the car, which
Yeah.
really was not a big deal.
Terrible problems right there. People for. Are we ready? Is it recording?
Yep.
Okay, and we have a quorum. So any other board members besides the three that I see?
No.
All right. Good morning, everyone. We're going to call the Montgomery County Planning Commission monthly board meeting to order for February 12th, 2025. Let the record show that we do currently have a quorum of 5 board members, myself and Bob in the room, and Jonathan, Sandra, and Dulcie online. Obed and John Ernst will be absent for today's meeting. It leaves us working meetings for all of you, so show up either in the room or on. So we'll get started anyhow. Is there any board comments before we get started? Any board comments from those online? Jonathan, Sandra, or Dulcie? Any board comments in the room? Bob?
Nope.
Nicole is logging.
What's that?
Nicole's on.
Oh, okay. Then do I have a motion to approve the regular monthly board meeting minutes from January 8th, 2025?
So moved.
Good move. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any comments or corrections on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, are there any negative votes to approve the meeting minutes? Okay, move on to our next part of the agenda, public comment. Is there any public or staff comment before we get started with our regular agenda? Anybody in the room?
I just have one comment. I want to wish Matt Emmons all the luck in the world at in his new position down in Chester County. I've always respected Matt and his opinions. We've worked on various projects together outside of this office, and you'll be sorely missed. But Steve's going to take over your position, and everybody will be happy. Thank you, Bob. You're welcome.
Any other comments? Any other public comment? Okay, we'll move on to our first order of business, which is the community planning assistance contracts. Do we have Eric online?
We do. Yeah. Good morning.
Lansdale and Horsham Township. Morning, Eric. How are you?
All right. How are you?
Good.
So these are the last of our 12 contract renewals that started January 1st, 2025 for Horsham and Lansdale. So for Lansdale, it is a renewal. We'll be completing an active transportation plan for them, continuing some design support for the railroad plaza, some zoning assistance for the downtown, and we just issued them a housing memo. So hopefully there'll be some opportunity to help them on some housing initiatives. For Horsham, we're wrapping up their comprehensive plan. A full draft is in their hands, and we'll be going through the adoption process early this year, and then moving on to implementation, which will include some ordinance updates and some grant writing. Also, their planner retired last year, so they wanted to bring us on to come to their monthly planning commission meetings to provide planning support and technical assistance at that meeting as well. Those are the final two, and you can read in the costs and municipal county shares as part of the resolution.
Who are the planners for those two?
Well, Tim Staub was working with Lansdale. He's obviously leaving. His last day is, I think, March 4th. So Mike Narkowicz, who's also been helping with the active transportation plan and was the previous planner, will be going back in, at least for the interim. And Horsham is Marley Bice.
So before us, we have MCPC Resolution 25-2.1, Community Planning Assistance Contract Resolution of February 12th, 2025. It contains 2 contracts. Contract number 680, Horsham Township. Length of contract is January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2027. Total cost is $93,456. Split 50% to the municipality and 50% to the county. And we have contract 684 Lansdale Borough, same length of contract, total cost is $124,608, split once again 50-50 between the municipality and the county. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Yes. I recommend that we approve the resolution.
So moved by Mr. Blue, and is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rendy. Are there any comments or questions from board members on the resolution? Bob, anything?
No.
Anybody online? Okay. Seeing none, are there any negative votes to approving the resolution?
No, there are not. For me, that's all that counts.
And Bob answered for everybody. All right, Eric, thank you very much, and we'll see you next year.
All right. Well, yeah, and we'll be presenting the ones that were approved for 2025 throughout the year as well.
I was kidding, Eric.
I know. I just was,
It was wishful thinking, Eric.
you and everybody else. Thanks.
Our next order of business is the North Montco Technical Career Center Enrollment Study Contract. And we call on Ann. Can't we make that into an acronym?
NMTCC.
Well, no, yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a agenda item. How you doing, Ann?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good.
All right, so you could let me know that this is my last presentation for the year before the Planning Commission Board. I'd be okay with that. No? All right, well, so the North Montco Technical Career Center is a little bit of a different contract for us. They're a technical high school. There are 3 in Montgomery County, and this is the school that serves the Methacton, North Penn, Perkiomen Valley, Souderton, and Wissahickon school districts. They're looking to do, I guess, 2 things with this project. They would like to see what their enrollment trends are, but it's not the same as what we would typically do for an entire school district. Their enrollment is, driven by interest in various career options, not necessarily just housing construction and housing sales. So we're going to take a little bit of a look at where enrollment changes might be happening, what their potential for growth in the future might be, but we're also going to look at the career side of things. What are the employment prospects for their graduates after high school? What are the in-demand careers in Montgomery County that these students might be preparing for? What are other technical high schools in the county and the region offering to their students? And trying to come up with some recommendations there as well. Not something I'm all that well versed in, but I'll be learning at the same time I'm writing the report.
What school districts did you say that you said Methacton and?
Methacton, North Penn, Perkiomen Valley, Souderton, and the Wissahickon school districts.
And I never realized we had 3. What are the 3? Eastern,
Montco is one, and
Western is the one that's up here around Pottstown.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Like I said, I'm learning.
Yeah, I'd like to see the geographical distribution. I'd like to see, because the students that are the catchment for those schools might have very different interests in what they want in technical education. And matching that up with what we have now with some of the newer manufacturing jobs, the jobs that have changed in manufacturing. I think this is a really interesting possible study, and it might bring some information back to us, even for comprehensive plan stuff.
I agree. All of this, all of these various projects add to the knowledge base that the Planning Commission can offer to all of its planners and municipalities.
A way to tie into the comprehensive plan.
Everything ties into the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
So,
Before we go on too much, because I want to get the resolution in. So if you can hold off a second, Jonathan. So before us, we have an MCPC resolution 25-2.2, short-term contract resolution of February 12th, 2025. Contract number contained in the resolution is contract number 689 North of Montco Technical Career Center. Length of contract is March 15th, 2025 to May 31st, 2025. Total cost is $6,426 with 75% going to the Technical Career Center and 25% being picked up by the county. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
so moved.
Moved, is there a second?
Second by Nicole.
Moved and seconded. Are there any comments or questions, Jonathan? Sorry, I have to cut you off before.
I was just wondering, is part of the results of this study to recommend to the school, these are emerging technical fields that you should consider in your curricula?
Maybe, but probably not. My understanding is that the state dictates the areas of study that the technical high schools can offer. So it's not like they can just start a new area of study from scratch. But, you know, I think they want to have a better sense of what the areas of opportunity are in the county. Yeah, obviously they see the manufacturing and the pharmaceuticals and things like that. What are the salaries for these types of jobs? What can their kids be expecting? Just like I said, I've never done one of these studies before, this kind of hybrid thing. So we're kind of creating a new model as we go with this one.
Yeah,
And it
I
might
guess
bring up, go ahead, John. I'm sorry, Jonathan.
why I asked that is that going into this new study, I'd want their expectations to align with our deliverables. I guess that's the way I want to say it. If they expect something, we're going to deliver it, or here's what we're going to deliver. Is that what you're expecting?
Oh, well, we present them a scope of work from the outset, and they modified what I had presented to make sure that I had the right data sources that they wanted me to look at. So we're very clear on what the report will include.
Okay, great, super. Thanks, Ann.
Any other comments or questions on the resolution? And will part of your study be trying to figure out if there are kids that have dropped off of the school district roles and just in general and may have been interested in a technical high school education, or more of a population out there?
I'm not sure we've considered that, like kids who have fallen through the cracks and whose needs aren't being met by the technical high school. That's
Or
what
by the high school or by the school districts in general, or are not. I guess the best way of knowing what word that comes to mind are wired to succeed in a normal high school and setting, and would thrive in a different type of educational setting.
I think we'll see some of that, because I am going to include the enrollment numbers overall for the students in grades 8 through 12 in all of the sending school districts. So we'll see if enrollment in high school level drops off at all, but I'm not going to do the same kind of projections that I would otherwise do in an enrollment study. I'll mostly be using the state's projection data to just get an overall sense of the enrollment trends in these districts and to see if any of that carries over to the technical high school.
And I'll just add,
Anecdotally, like I could tell you that, I mean, I have family friends where two students were, not set out for traditional learning and were not, thriving in a normal high school. And, one parents were early engaged in trying to get them into Eastern Technical Center, and
you know, the other one was later to making that transition. But once they moved to technical and were able to, you know, be exposed to different types of learning and learning something, a skill that, because they were not set out, they were not going to continue on to a college or anything. It just wasn't their pathway. They thrived and are thriving from that. So I was just wondering how many, if that's something in the conversation. So. Also, did you have something?
Yeah, what I was going to say is I think doing the study and aligning it what the school wants, well, but it may bring up the questions that we're discussing now, even if that isn't in the original scope of work, which may inform other decisions or other interests from technical schools.
On that note, I would just add, yeah, our scope doesn't include like outreach or interaction with students themselves or families. So but that may be a spin-off of the study that leads to the school or districts pursuing, you know, more answers directly in that fashion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of technical schools and skill learning. It's something I think that has been what's the word? Having a loss of words, stigmatized over the years, and I think it's becoming less stigmatized, but had been for years. And I think it's something that's that's missed and probably would be attracted to a lot more students than we probably anticipate. So,
especially when they see the rates of pay for technical people, plumbers, electricians,
yeah,
carpenters. I mean, it's through the roof.
and anyhow, so just a thought. Okay, any other questions or comments from board members, staff, public? Anybody else? Okay, well, any negative votes to approve the resolution? Seeing none, resolution is passed. We'll move on to our next agenda item, which is our annual subdivision and land development summary. And is Austin online with us?
Yes. Yes. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Morning, everyone.
How you doing, Austin?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I'm
And,
going to.
Rob, you're bringing up his presentation, or you're bringing?
He's gonna share it. What is that?
Oh, okay. Share away, Austin.
Okie dokie. Okay. I think I have to move some things, maybe. Can everyone see the slideshow?
Yeah, you want to hit the slideshow on the slideshow at the top.
There we go.
You're
Yep.
good.
We're good?
And then you want to bang your computer a couple times.
Well, all right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Austin Mosby with County Planning, and I am doing the 2024 annual summaries. Now, if this presentation sounds like it's coming from someone who is doing this for the first time, that's because I am. So we have among our staff, we have people who've been doing this forever and people who just joined us. So I think this is a great refresher for everyone to learn a little bit about what this is, why we do it, and what it means. So here we go. Oh, and I put this slideshow in Eagles green.
I know, I was going to say something. Thank you, Austin. That was very smart of you to capture your audience.
Go Birds. Okay, so what are the annual summaries and why do we do them? So the basis of it is the Act 247 of 1968, the Municipalities Planning Code. This state law requires the municipalities in our county to submit to us their applications that they receive for subdivision and land development, as well as any changes to their existing subdivision and land development ordinances and zoning codes. So we get these submissions throughout the year, we review them and we comment on them. And this report goes over the volume that we have received and the details of the types of development that has been proposed in 2024. So I'm going to be discussing the number of submissions we received in 2024. Then I'll look at the acreage of the submissions, the acreage as measured by the size of the developments that are proposed. And then we'll talk about the zoning activity that we have reviewed across the county. Jumping into our submissions, we received 382 submissions in 2024. These were for subdivision and land development proposals. Of that, 145 were new proposals, new never before seen development, and not considered resubmissions. This is a look back since 2015 at the total submissions compared with new proposals. And you can see in 2024, we increased from 2023, but still not as much as we had in 2021. So we're still on decline there, but making somewhat of a rebound. This map shows us the submissions, where they came from in the county. The darker were higher volume of submissions we received, and the lighter were fewer submissions we received. The trend is from the center part of the county, we receive fewer, and in the east and down towards Lower Marion, we get a higher volume of submissions. Okay, so we're going to talk about acreage. I have to be mindful of our changing measurements throughout this slideshow. This is the acreage of our submissions, meaning the size of the developments that were proposed. In 2024, we received 599 acres of proposed development. This is 195 less than we received in 2023. From 2025, you can see in terms of the volume, the size of the developments collectively received each year to review, it's a steady average decline in the overall acreage, which is very interesting.
Austin, is that new acreage, or is it a combination of newly developed land and redeveloped land?
That's a great question. And
it's
sure.
a combination.
That's a combination. Yeah.
Do we know what the split is?
I don't have that between the new and like the resubmissions.
Steve, it would be about just half. I think this year we had developed on 49% of already developed land. So probably right around 300 acres is what we've seen for new development, and then another 300 for redevelopment on, already developed land.
And is that split typical for the last few years, or are we seeing a trend one way or the other?
Last year it was right around 50% as well.
Uh-huh.
Let me throw my camera on real quick. Last year was right around 50% as well. But the years before that, I would say it's been right around in the 35% range. So the past 2 years have been a significant increase. But the years prior to that have kind of maintained the similar trend to what we've seen historically.
Okay, so you mentioned 35%. 35% of redeveloped land, or 35% of newly developed lands?
Of redeveloped. So before 2024, we've been seeing a trend right around 35%. So the developments that have been coming in for our review, the new submissions, those have been taking place. 35% of those proposals have been taking place on already developed land.
So what I gather from that, just to summarize, we're seeing a greater amount of applications that are redevelopments as opposed to development on new land, on undeveloped land.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're
Yeah,
really
it's
seeing,
worth- Yeah. Sorry,
What was
Dustin.
that? Chelsea?
so what we're seeing is repurposing of properties, most probably, I'm assuming, in the areas that we have always wanted to focus for development or redevelopment, as opposed to virgin land.
Seems like the trend is headed that way right now.
It's probably also densifying those areas if we looked at it with multiple layers of information.
And just, so you know, when it comes to actual construction, we do have exact figures on whether it's going into a developed or undeveloped land or you know, those different future land use categories. We do not do to that extent on these proposals, but that's something we could do if we wanted to.
When do we do the construction numbers? Later in the year, right?
They usually get presented in June. They take a few months to get through the BOA before we have a full set.
Can we, when that comes up, can we break out that number and get an idea of what?
Absolutely.
construction
Yeah,
was done
I'm making a note of that.
Construction was redevelopment.
Yes.
Go ahead, Austin. Back to you.
So I just mentioned the decline in the collective volume of acreage of the proposals over time since 2015 is pretty notable. This chart shows the acreage by land use type. About half is residential and the other half was non-residential in 2024. And I'll get more into the non-residential breakdown later in the presentation.
So one question on that, the residential, does that include multifamily?
Yes, that includes multifamily and single family, attached and detached.
And how about the multifamily if it's involved in a mixed use development, like a TOD or something? Is it broken?
That's a really good question.
The residential and non-residential components are counted separately.
Okay, so if there's commercial space, it's in that 20% or whatever number, I'm not even sure. It's that 17%. If there's commercial space as part of a TOD, it's in the other numbers, and the residential is into the residential part of it.
That's correct. So we've got a couple of things that show up on our top 10 largest proposals that are both showing up on the residential and non-residential sides.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
That was a great question, Steve.
Every once in a while, Austin.
Okay, so I'm going to go into more breakdown of the residential versus non-residential submissions. And now our measurement, our unit of measurement is units. Here on this chart, we're looking at the residential units proposed from 2015 to 2024. And I want to point out that 2021 started a sharp decline, and then in 2023, pretty much leveled out. In 2023, we had 2006 units of residential proposed. And in 2024, we only had 9 more than that, 2015. So it's pretty level. What's interesting here is even though the volume of submissions that we received has increased, we had about 200 more submissions for review, the acreage is down and the residential units is about the same. So I thought that was interesting. Looking at the types of housing that you had asked about earlier, this chart shows us that one thing that really jumps out right away is that multifamily dominates the housing type by unit, number of units year after year. Between 2023 and 2024, even though the number of units was largely the same, one notable change between the 2 years, you'll notice with single family in 2023, there were far more attached single family units than detached. And then in 2024, that flip-flopped and we had more attached single family than detached. This map shows us where the most units came from across the county. And in Upper Moreland, there were two major developments proposed. That's why that municipality is so dark. The top 10 largest by number of units is shown in this map here. And those units by name are here. So we see number 1 and 2, the 2 largest proposed in the county were from Upper Moreland. Here, just to talk a little bit about the age-restricted components in relation to the overall number of units we received to review. There's Just like the overall decline in 2022, that sharp decline in overall units leveling out in 2024, that change is somewhat mirrored with the age-restricted units. There's also a decline in the number of age-restricted units after 2022 and a slight increase in 2024. Shifting gears to non-residential, and our unit I'm measuring is in square footage. This chart, I want to point out that after COVID, there was a gradual increase in the square footage of non-residential development proposed in the county, and then in 2023 dropped precipitously from almost 7 million square feet to 2.5 million square feet, which is really important to note. It's a very sharp decline. This is a breakdown. I had mentioned before that with our acreage, it was about half residential and half non-residential. This is a look at the non-residential. And with the non-residential square footage, it's split about evenly 3 ways between institutional, industrial, and commercial. It's about a third each. Office was less than 1% of the square footage that we received to review in 2024.
Where did distributions fall? Do they fall into the industrial?
No.
Distribution centers.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
should.
Industrial.
Yes.
Warehouse.
Yeah, warehouse, distribution centers, yeah.
Austin, do you think the big drop off is because the county is running out of large tracts of land to build this sort of building?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I would think not. Does anyone have any input on that? Who knows more than I do about that?
I would say it's more because of just the saturation, and that 5.5 million is huge. So the pipeline is thicker, and a lot of that came in on speculation. We didn't, as when we get them, we don't know who's going to be operating there, and oftentimes the applicant doesn't know, or they certainly don't say, but sometimes they don't even know. So it's really just that is the sector that has just ballooned, especially since COVID, but was starting off already with changes in shopping patterns. So in my mind, it's more of a reactive slowdown just to the volume of activity, because that 5.5 million the year before was immense in terms of anything we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Did we ever have conversations with the Commerce Department to correlate back and forth between the numbers that we're seeing and what the cause and effect of some of those, what they're seeing, and what the cause and effect of some of the number changes might be? I mean, you may be right about what you're saying, Scott, but I just didn't know if the Commerce Department has ever discussed these numbers with them to find out what their analysis of some of those changes or some of the trend changes are.
Yeah, we do talk frequently, and I think honestly, what I hear more for them is from more emerging sectors. Certainly the data center issue is something they've really been fielding a lot of calls on and work on. The warehouse stuff is a little more quiet in terms of it's not as flashy or whatnot. It's just finding the right location and enough land, and people have done that, and that's, like you see, that's kind of responsible for the glut. But yeah, the Commerce is since they turned over. I think we've had more market activity feedback from them, and that's kind of going into some of those thoughts in the comprehensive plan as well, as to what industries are emerging in Montgomery County and what we can do to help where we want to. Sometimes there's some challenges that are bigger and weren't before, such as utility companies and how much they are willing to supply if there's an economic development opportunity. And I think that's one of the pinch points as well right now that's being worked through.
We're seeing it, you see it in the construction industry also. A year and a half ago, you were out 40, 45 weeks, maybe sometimes even a year, to get bar joists for a building, because all of these companies like Amazon and Target and Walmart have bought up all of the production capacity for bar joists because they were building these warehouse distribution centers. And now that timeline has come down to 30, 35 weeks, because there's a lot less of that market being taken up in speculative warehouse construction.
I mean,
I'll
5.5,
note one. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, 5.5 million of industrial, like, that's a huge number.
That's a huge number.
And when you pull that out of those 2023 numbers, all of a sudden what's left looks a lot like 2024. So that right there is a huge blip, a huge market
Right.
blip.
And I wonder how much of those is, how many of those are occupied? I mean, I know I passed one up on 309 going out towards Doylestown. Not Doylestown, out towards, no, Quakertown, excuse me, out towards Quakertown. And before you get on the bypass where it turns into the highway, there's a large distribution center, and I passed there probably 3 weeks ago, and it looks dead.
Well, there are a lot, there are
Yeah.
also, Stephen, I think there are a lot, when you look at where these are being located, a lot of them have to do with road access and limited highway access. And I know that there's still huge amount of space available along the connector in Franconia. There are several humongous buildings still sitting there. And I don't think they're occupied as of now. They may be, in the near future, and I wouldn't see anything. But a lot of that was, anticipating where there's going to be any improvement in highway access also.
Well, East Norton, there's an Amazon center that is dark.
Used to be a Walmart and now, and it never opened.
Right.
So, yeah, Scott's right. There's a lot of things that were built on spec. Some of it opened, a lot of it didn't. Of course, that's gonna be a challenge in a couple of years when those owners start to figure out, Amazon's not coming in, they pulled back.
Yeah, but a lot of them have lease payments anyway, like the one in East Norton, Amazon's paying every month.
Okay. All right, Austin. Take us to our next detour of conversations.
This map shows us the concentration of square footage of the proposals for non-residential development. With West Norriton having high concentration of square footage because of a facility there, a psychiatric treatment facility was built there, or was proposed there rather. And Dulce, as you mentioned, with the location of a lot of the development proposed being near the highway access, this map is the top 10 proposed non-residential developments by square footage. And you can see a really clear trend, numbers 3, 4, and 8, and the description will be on the next slide. Numbers 3, 4, and 8 are in the area of the Lansdale exit on the northeast extension of the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Numbers 7, 10, and 2 are near the Willow Grove exit on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. And numbers 9, 6, and 5 are along the 422 corridor.
422.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the only one that's not is the one you talked about, which is the one that's in West Norton.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
These are those units.
You don't need to be near a major highway for a psychiatric location.
And finishing up here, talk about zoning. So, in accordance with the municipality's planning code, we review proposals for amendments that are proposed in each municipality for changes to their zoning code and their subdivision and land development ordinances, and also their zoning maps that are required to accompany zoning ordinances. This chart shows us the volume we received year by year. In 2024, we received 87 ordinance amendments to review and 22 map amendments to review. It is a slight increase since 2023. And it looks like we may be on the rebound there because there was a decrease starting in 2021 and 2022. So it looks like that trend is reversing. And to wrap up here, to summarize, in 2024, we had 382 submissions that we reviewed for subdivision and land development ordinances and conditional use reviews. Of those, in that we received 599 acres of proposed development. That was split about evenly between residential and non-residential acreage. For residential, in terms of the units, there were 2,015 units proposed that we reviewed in 2024, 9 more than in 2023, and multifamily proposals continue to dominate. Non-residential, split fairly even between commercial, industrial, and institutional uses, and less than 1% was office. And with the zoning amendments, zoning map amendments, and zoning ordinance amendments, we received 109 to review. That's 15 more than in 2023. And that wraps it up.
Good job.
Any questions or comments for Austin from members on the online?
Austin, this is Jonathan. I think you did a great job. The only thing I would suggest is next year, try to put a little more analysis in the numbers. The numbers are great and very interesting, but you can see by the questions from the board, we're asking like, why do you think this happened? Or what is the reason for that? That would be useful information for us if you had a perspective on that next year.
Thank you for that feedback, Jonathan.
Any other comments? Bob?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, thanks, Austin. And I agree with Jonathan, a little bit more depth, just so we can get a correlation with the numbers, great, so. All right, next up is our Montco 2040 implementation report. And with that, I'll call on Ann. Might as well just turn the rest of the meeting over to Ann.
You had your chance to excuse me.
Would never think of doing that, Ann.
All right, I am opening up the PowerPoint. And here we go. All right. All right, so as you know, or maybe you don't know if you're new to the board, we put together each year an implementation update for our current comprehensive plan. We're always talking about Montco 2050, but it's important to remember that we have a Montco 2040 and that a lot of our work does tie back to the comprehensive plan, not just from the Planning Commission, but from other departments as well. So we take a look back each year at the ways that the Planning Commission has been implementing the goals and the themes of our current comprehensive plan, but also reach out to other departments to ask about their work over the prior year and their goals for the upcoming year to see how their work has been implementing the plan as well. We have 3 themes to Montco 2040. I have memorized them because I talk about them a lot. We've got connected communities, sustainable places, and a vibrant economy. So we're going to talk first about connected communities. The goals of a connected community theme are to encourage collaboration and partnerships among the county government and other stakeholders, to improve our transportation quality and give options to workers to get to work, or in today's case, not get to work. Expand and connect our county trails to other nearby assets and to support strong downtowns and community destinations. In 2024, we continued the Montco 2040 implementation grant program, which you will hear more about from me in a couple of minutes. We continued the county's DEI work, which has been under the microscope a little bit, but that work will continue, and that department is being expanded to help the county expand the DEI work that it's doing. We continued progress on the Justice Center construction across the street and released the RFEI for the Area Street Prison. Health and Human Services, as usual, is super busy and does a lot of outreach and partnership work. The Office of Public Health conducted a community health assessment that had a lot of great public input that we have been talking to our colleagues about, so we can incorporate some of those ideas into our comprehensive plan. County launched its Food Policy Council. We had new members join the Your Way Home Continuum of Care community. And we do interesting things like, I particularly find this interesting, that we're surveilling the county's wastewater outflows and testing for disease incidents so that we can do a better job of keeping people healthy. We had big transportation infrastructure improvements take place, Ridge Pike among them. And we also had progress made on some of the Office of Roads and Bridges bridge reconstruction work, including the reconstruction of Mill Creek Road Bridge. That's the picture that you see on the left. We also are proud to see more bike lanes being installed across the county. Trail construction is also a big part of this. We completed construction of the Pennypack Trail in Rockledge to connect into Philadelphia. We secured funds for ongoing cross-county trail projects. We are moving forward. I think I say this every year, but this is actually true, that we are moving forward with the Trail Junction Center work, and construction has been advertised for this project to actually like get going, which is amazing. And we received grant funds from the local share account through the state for money to go toward another portion of the cross-county trail. We supported strong downtowns in a variety of ways. Our Office of Housing and Community Development has helped a lot of different programs and helped with physical infrastructure improvements and the other similar projects through its CDBG program and the allocation of funds there. The Green Resource Center continues to grow at the Norristown Farm Park. And then all of the other planning work that we do in our office through our community planning program and the design work that Patty's section does. In 2025, I think you're going to see more of the same. I'm not going to go through this in too much detail, but I think other than a lot of the projects that I was just talking about continuing, I think you're going to see some interesting work come out of the planning for the celebrations for America 250 and the work that we'll be doing at the county to help promote this 250th birthday. Sustainable places is the next theme, that we are a county with amazing and wonderful neighborhoods and communities that need to be sustained and improved for the future. Goals of this theme are to support a modern, resilient, green, and energy efficient infrastructure network, to improve our stormwater management, to conserve the natural resources and other sensitive areas in the county, to give people more opportunities to exercise and have healthy lifestyles, to support housing choices and opportunities, and to enhance community character. In 2024, we did a lot of work to support housing needs, including wrapping up the emergency rental assistance program, which I included here just because it's big. And getting the information from other departments, I didn't realize that just the scope of this program. The county provided, through various funding sources, over $123 million to 9,843 households from 2022 to 2024 to people who needed emergency assistance in just staying in their homes. A lot of people and a lot of money. I just found it to be really inspiring. And we've done a lot of work to establish additional code blue emergency shelters, which is also, it's good and it's bad. It's bad in that we are stretching resources kind of thin, and the volunteers that run these shelters kind of thin, but it's great that we are able to provide resources to people, especially on nights like this when it's cold and snowy. We promoted access to healthy lifestyles through projects like the county's Trail Challenge. And we work to enhance community character through issuing community alerts through our Health and Human Services Department to make sure residents know of extreme weather events. We transitioned through our Office of Public Safety to Next Generation 911. And we just wrapped up a year-long countywide emergency medical services study. In 2025, lots of things to look forward to. Our office is going to submit the Wissahickon Water Quality Improvement Plan for approval and implementation, and we're going to begin the county stormwater planning update. Veronica is going to continue the hazardous waste collection events. They're always very popular and well attended. We're going to continue that trail challenge, and we're actually hoping to launch a similar challenge to encourage people to visit some of the county's farms and other agricultural related events. We're going to continue working on implementing the Homes for All plan and providing health supports to people throughout the county. Last but not least, vibrant economy. A strong economy is really important for all places, including Montgomery County. This gives people the ability to earn and spend more money. It gives the government, county government that is, the ability to make the infrastructure improvements that we would like to see, and it helps businesses grow. Goals are to improve transportation access to businesses, to encourage development and investment where we already have the infrastructure to support it, and to attract and retain businesses and assets where we would like to see them. In 2024, we continue to move major transportation projects ahead, continuing work on the 309 connector project, Pottstown's Kime Street Bridge, which has been closed for a very long time, actually went out to construction and will be a great asset to add back into Pottstown's downtown. We completed phase 1 of the SRPRA service development plan, which would extend rail service, as you know, back out to Pottstown and beyond to Reading. Our tourism and hotel stays continue to recover post-pandemic. That is something that we are definitely keeping an eye on, as 2026, like I mentioned, with America 250, is bringing a lot of events and potential tourism to the region. We invested in the county's businesses and workers. We approved CPACE projects in King of Prussia, supported grant submissions to the state, provided Montco forward loans through the Commerce Department to local businesses, and they also continue to hold their Careers of Tomorrow Expo, which you see in the upper left, to expose local students to potential career possibilities. In 2025, we are going to continue our work to expand transportation options to residents of the county, including continuing to work on the SRPRA partnership. I hear that we've got a solid partner in Chester County in that effort. We're going to partner with the Valley Forge Tourism Board to promote the county's regional assets. The county, Montgomery County that is, will continue to work with the Norristown Chamber of Commerce to provide additional capacity and funding to help them with their growth. We'll continue to promote small business development centers and continue to have support workforce development programs, particularly aimed at youth. And a little bit more on this, each year we were talking before about where growth is taking place. You can see here that we do look to see where our housing units are being built, whether they're being built in our designated growth areas or outside of the areas we've decided that are appropriate for development. You can see here that almost everything is being built in a growth area or an area that we think has development potential. Some small amount of units are being built in rural resource areas, but most of these places are on the fringe of what is already developed. In terms of our non-residential construction, I think nearly everything was being built in a designated growth area or a development potential area, like 99%. And similarly, we reevaluate each year our transportation projects that we put into Montco 2040. Our program transportation projects, that is to say, projects that had funding attached to them at the time we were working on this plan, are nearly all complete at this point. There are a handful of projects that have not moved forward. And even our vision projects, the ones that we wanted to put in the plan to identify as things that we were thinking about, even some of those have moved forward or have gone to construction as well. So it's encouraging to see that just the act of putting this plan together helps us stay organized and helps show funders and others that we have projects that are ready to go and that are ready to be implemented. And that is this year's implementation update.
Any questions or comments from board members online? Nope. I'll see Jonathan, Nicole, Sandra, anybody? Wow. So this was presented in front of the commissioners
Yes.
last week or something? How'd that go over?
It went fine. They did not really have any comments.
Okay. Got it. Well, it's good to see a lot of the progress going on, and it'd be interesting, you know, running out of things to accomplish, so we need to come up with a new comp plan soon.
I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, get on that. So,
Yeah. In your free time.
Yeah.
I'll say for the director's report, but there's some, on that note, some upcoming events and high profile announcements towards new activity out of the commissioner's office that we've been part of. A tease.
yeah, way to tease us. Okay, then we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is the Montco 2050 Advisory Committee. And this month we're talking about preservation and recreation. And I got a cast of characters here.
Oh.
So who's starting off here?
Me. I'm gonna
Chloe.
start this one and David starts the next one, FYI, has that.
Okay.
So I'm
I'm trying to
gonna,
remember it. I'm gonna start moving.
I'm gonna hand this off pretty quickly to our open space. Can I talk from here? Is that allowed?
No,
you're good.
You're fine.
To our open space, and I don't know if I have to stand up there, to our open space and trails group, but I just wanted to introduce this by saying that we've been having meetings with our advisory committee. We had another one, and we feel that it's very important, even though half of our MCPC board sits on the advisory committee, to keep all of you in the loop with what's going on. So we have an abridged version of the presentation that we gave to the advisory committee, plus we've taken that the next step, taking the feedback from the advisory committee and meeting internally to come up with some vision statements for preservation and recreation that we want to share with you today. So similar to how you've seen other topics, we have Bill, Ellen, Donna, Steve presenting here about preservation and recreation, which includes farmland preservation, which is probably obvious, but he doesn't sit with that group here. Anyway, Bill, you go right ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Chloe. Good morning, everybody. You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep, perfect.
Great. Okay. Okay, and can you see the presentation okay?
All good.
Yes.
Great. Okay, good. Well, good morning again. Thank you for having us. This is a tag team effort, as Chloe mentioned. And so I'm going to start off here just to get us rolling. And one of the slides that we showed to the advisory committee and that you see in front of you here talks about how the topics that we're talking about within preservation and recreation also tie to other issues that we're addressing in the comp plan: transportation, land use, the environment and sustainability, as well as health and wellness. And that theme of interconnectedness is something that you'll see flow throughout this presentation. And obviously it's something that is important to us, and to make sure that we're aware of those connections and that we're honoring them in the visions that we're coming up for this portion of the comp plan. So today we're going to be focusing on trails, open space, and county land. And so the remainder of the presentation is going to focus on these three areas. And initially, we're going to provide you with some foundational information. I'm going to talk about trails. Ellen and Steve are going to talk about open space and farmland preservation for Steve. And then Donna is going to address the topic of what we're calling county land. And then I'm going to swing back into the presentation and talk about 7 broad trends that we developed as part of our presentation to the advisory committee. And then those are going to be followed by 5 vision statements that we developed in the time since the advisory committee meeting that we're going to present to you for your feedback. So jumping into trails. Obviously, you know as well as anybody that the county takes great pride in our trail system. There's a multiplicity of benefits that come with trails. And while the county and our section and the Planning Commission favors the development of all different types of trails. At the county level, we're really focusing on what we call multi-purpose trails, not nature trails that you might find in a park where it's a single tractor trail or through a woodland. These are multi-purpose trails. And on the left-hand side of this slide, you can see some of the minimum standards that we apply when we are developing trails around Montgomery County. They're typically off-road. They're a minimum of 10 feet in width, and they are multi-purpose. They're open to use by pedestrians and bicyclists and actually equestrians in some cases in some of the more rural areas of the county. Multi-purpose trails are always paved, and that pavement can come in the form of asphalt, or it can be a compacted aggregate like you see in the bottom right-hand picture on this slide. If you've walked or ridden the Perkiomen Trail, you'll know that the upper stretches of that trail are a compacted aggregate. It's more than adequate for bicycles as well as walking. And with our trails, we always strive to follow guidelines for accessibility to meet multi-use trail standards. That's paying attention to the American with Disabilities Act and the guidelines that come from that, as well as AASHTO guidelines that address things like slope, cross slope, width, and so on. In terms of the benefits that come with trails, again, these are things that you're all very familiar with, but we like to reiterate them when we have an opportunity like today. But trails provide immense value in a bunch of different ways. They provide recreational value. They can serve as a transportation resource to allow people to get from point A to point B to reach key destinations around the county, whether it's a shopping center or a park. And we're always striving to improve that accessibility. Trails have environmental benefits. It gets people off the road and it gets cars off the road. And trails also provide, and these are some of the lesser discussed benefits of trails, but they have social benefits. It provides an opportunity for people to get together, to socialize, and of course, the health and wellness benefits of getting out on a trail and walking and being outdoors and getting some physical exercise are also really important. When we talk about trails in Montgomery County, we really think of them within the broader networks. And when we talk about networks, they're important because they will boost the impact of the trail system. Individual trails are obviously important, but when they become part and tied into a broader network, the impact is greater. And there are multiple layers of trails that we look at when we think about trail development within Montgomery County. More regionally and broadly, there's the Circuit Trail Network, which is the map that you see on this slide. This covers southeastern Pennsylvania and a number of counties in southern New Jersey. The Circuit Trail Network is an envisioned trail network of about 850 miles or so. Right now, about 450, depending on who you ask, miles of that network have been constructed, which is pretty incredible. Obviously, the further you get along that pipeline, the harder it becomes because you've addressed what you might call the low-hanging fruit in trail development, and getting those final 300, 400 miles built is going to be hard, but a lot of work is happening to make that a reality, and things like the federal funding that we just received, not just Montgomery County, but other counties, is going to give a boost to building out the Circuit Trail Network. When you zoom into Montgomery County itself, this is where we focus on something that we call the primary trail network. And I know you've seen this map before. It's kind of our guiding force when we think about trail development across Montgomery County. This really represents the highway of trails within Montgomery County, the key arteries that get people around to different parts of Montgomery County. The development of these trails, as well as other circuit trails, happens at all different levels. It can be work that's performed by the county. It can be trail work that's performed by municipalities, as well as nonprofit organizations. So it's a multi-level development scene and process. And without that wide-ranging group of organizations and entities, building out the trail network would be very difficult. It's requiring work by a number of different partners. When we talk about, Steve?
Bill,
yeah.
Are you seeing any movement in the federal funding as of yet? due to some of the changes in the executive orders? Have you seen any of that trickle down to some of the projects you're working on?
No, not yet. Obviously, that's something that's on our mind, but our philosophy right now is just to keep plowing forward until we're told we can't or shouldn't, because we can't afford to sit and wait for that to be sorted out, whether it's congressionally or at the judicial level. So, but no, we have not heard any noise from PennDOT or others at this point.
Steve, let me just jump in real quick. We had our RTC meeting yesterday, which is the Regional Technical Committee. It's basically the Planning Commission, as the Planning Commission is to the county commissioners, the RTC is the DVRPC board. So tip actions go to the RTC before they go to the DVRPC board. And we got an update from staff that the list of changes to the tip from January's meeting were largely put on hold because a number of them include things like raise, the discretionary program raise. And there was a couple other things in there as well, protect and some other stuff. And that all is being held up by Federal Highway Administration. They want to let PennDOT process those tip changes because it's part of their overarching review. I don't think, Matt, they mentioned carbon in particular as being one that was on that list, but there is palpable fear that carbon money, which is being used to fund a number of cross-county trail segments, will sooner or later fall into that review.
Okay.
Matt, do you have anything to add?
There were no carbon actions on the January tip, but one of the ones that was there was an earmark, congressional earmark that is now also being held up by FHWA. So all kinds of concern and questions at the moment. I think the message of we have to keep continuing until someone tells us to stop is currently the best way to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Bill,
yeah.
Bill, is the primary trail network map that you showed on the previous slide, is that on the county's website?
It is, Jonathan. If you go to the Parks, Trails, and Historic Sites webpage, in the left-hand side of the webpage, you'll see a link to the trail network map.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So on the local trail front, obviously, even though the county's focused on building out these arteries and highways of trails like the Perkiomen and the Schuylkill River Trail, Pennypack, et cetera, it's also really important that local trail development is advanced so that they can tie into those arteries. And this is an interesting map because the green lines that you see there are portions of the primary trail network, but those, I guess they're orange or brownish lines represent local trails that have been developed around the county, and you can see where they're starting to tie into that network. This is a long-range effort, but the goal, of course, is to maximize the number of local connections into the primary trail network. So in terms of the Planning Commission, our role is really to advance the trail development pipeline. That includes everything from feasibility studies all the way through to construction. So a few fast facts about today's trails. Right now, about 100+ miles of the primary trail network has been constructed. About 92 miles of county-owned and maintained trails have been constructed. Keep in mind that that number of 92 includes smaller trails in places, and they may be more nature-oriented type trails in places like Green Lane Park or Lorimer Park, but they also include trails like the Schuylkill River Trail or the Pennypack Trail. In the last 10 years, almost 14 miles of primary trail network trails have been constructed, including the closure of 3 major trail gaps, which you can see on this graphic at the bottom, including the Schuylkill River Trail, the Schuylkill East Trail, the Chester Valley Trail, and the Pennypack Trail were all trail gaps that were closed. Looking forward in 2025, about 9 miles of primary trail network trail will be in or begin engineering, which is great. That'll really start moving things forward. And we anticipate about 4 miles of the primary trail network to be constructed in 2025 alone. So I'm going to flip it over to Ellen, who's going to jump into open space. And Ellen, just let me know when you'd like to advance the slides, and I'll do that.
Sure. Okay. Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to give an overview regarding open space in the county. And so just to kick things off, to consider what is open space, and looking at these photos, you might think it's simple to define open space, but it's really not. And it's interesting to see how we all might view open space. So just starting on that top left and moving around on the photos, you know, just posing some questions. Is this manicured public garden open space, Stoneleigh and Villanova? Is this local farm, the cornfield in Lower Frederick, open space? Is the trail bridge, the Perkiomen Trail Bridge across the Perkiomen, open space? How about this cemetery here, Riverside Cemetery in Norristown? What about this small urban park, Linwood Park in Ardmore? And then this last photo here is this urban promenade open space, Pencoid Landing in Ballackinwood. Just in looking at and considering these images, you know, maybe it broadens your view of open space a little bit. So we just thought that was an important question to kind of start out with. Next slide.
The answer.
Yeah. I'm on pins and needles.
So then coming to open space here in the county, broadly speaking, we're talking about land that is undeveloped or has little development, and it's frequently used for recreation, conservation, or agriculture. You could see the list there on the left, ranging from natural resource land that's untouched. And you can read the list there, going all the way down to those urban green spaces and public plazas, such as we saw in the previous slide. And then it's really important to note this little list down below the photos, that some public space is, I'm sorry, some open space is publicly owned by government. Some is privately owned. Some is publicly accessible. You can go there and enjoy it and walk upon it. And some isn't. Some is protected forever. And much more is not. So we can go to the next slide. So then looking at the mechanics of open space preservation, how does preservation of open space happen here in the county? So each year now, the county budgets approximately $3.5 million to fund open space preservation projects. And this money is used both by the county itself for fee acquisitions of land, and also grants to municipalities and nonprofits, conservation organizations such as Natural Lands, for open space preservation projects. And we use specific criteria to assess if a proposed open space project would be a good use of these county resources. Generally, the county fee acquisitions, they focus on land that is adjacent to existing county assets, such as county parks or other county-owned land and county trails, and also land that's ecologically and environmentally important. And it's important also to understand that the county open space grants to municipalities or conservation organizations are usually just one piece of a multi-partner funding formula. So that gives you a little bit of an overview. You can go to the next slide. And then today's open space. So this map here depicts land that is permanently protected open space in the county today. And you'll see in that pie chart in the lower right that the ownership falls into 7 different categories. It's either owned outright by government entities, federal, state, county, municipal, or owned by nonprofit land trusts, or it's private land that's protected through conservation easements. And as of 2022, when we were working on the return on investment study, and we developed this map for that purpose, there were approximately 43,500 acres of permanently protected open space in the county. And the county has a very strong track record of open space preservation for over the last 30 years. In 1993, the county open space ordinance was enacted, and your vice chair, Dulcie Flaherty, played a very integral role in that effort. And then lastly, just to note that a new county open space grant program will be rolled out this year. And just as is done with open space projects today, these applications will be reviewed by our county open space board, who will then recommend the projects for approval or not by our county commissioners. So that's just a very broad, quick overview on open space in the county, and that's it.
Alan.
All right, so we'll flip it to Steve if you want to talk about the farmland slide, Steve.
Yes. Hey, everyone. Yeah, so preserved farmland is an important component of the county's open space inventory. On the map here to the right, it might not look like a lot, but when you consider how much of the land in the county is actually already developed, and you focus on the left half of the county, it is a considerable amount of land that we already preserved. About 1/3 of our farmland is currently preserved already. So that's good to note. We also have a very diverse farming operations. We have farms that grow normal feed crops, all different types of livestock, dairy farms, Christmas tree farms, equestrian centers. So we definitely have a very diverse farming operation community as opposed to other surrounding counties. There's definitely multiple benefits for farmers and the land and the community. There's financial benefits, environmental benefits, economic benefits. We can go into those and break all those down one day. However, we do still see that challenges do persist when it comes to farmland and the farmland preservation program. The younger generations are simply not really wanting to farm. Farming is becoming expensive. The land is expensive. Equipment's expensive. All the different fertilizers, just about everything when it comes to farming, it's becoming more and more expensive, among other things. This is leading to a more innovative thinking from the farming community, how they can come up with different revenue streams to increase their income. A lot of our farmers, they have to work outside of farming, so in addition to getting up at 2 a.m. to tend to their cows, they still have to go to a full-time job or part-time. So giving them the flexibility to have these different revenue streams like agritourism, really benefits them. And as of now, we do have 10,582 acres preserved on 191 different farms. So the program is definitely thriving, and dare I say it's better than ever.
All right, thanks, Steve. All right, so Donna, you can jump right into county land.
All right, good morning, everyone. We came up with this term county land to distinguish it from the rest of the open space. This is land that's owned by Montgomery County or managed by county staff. So there's 3 types of properties that kind of interact with each other at the different types. So we've got our managed and unmanaged natural areas, parks, historic sites, and trail corridors, and then various ownership arrangements, leasing, easing land. So an example I like to use is Norristown Farm Park, which is operates as a county park. It's managed by county staff. The property is actually owned by the Commonwealth, and we manage it through a lease agreement. I think then we also turn around and lease it for it to be farmed. So definitely multiple layers going on there. And as Ellen alluded to previously, there are varying ranges of public accessibility. Some of our county lands, are open and accessible to the public. Others, such as the natural areas, they're more just conserved as open space and aren't open. Next slide, please. All right, so how much land are we talking about? There are more than 6,000 acres in the county system. The vast majority of this land is in parks, as you can see in the Kelly Green there on the map. Those are kind of our 3 flagship parks in the county. And then we have historic sites too, and those are usually on smaller areas of land. And the attendance at our county parks has been following the trend in the increased demand for outdoor recreation. So that seems to be on the rise. People are getting out and using our facilities, which is great. Next slide, please. All right, in terms of how all this gets managed, that responsibility falls to our County Parks, Trails, and Historic Sites Division. So anytime that we're looking to expand our system, whether through acquisitions of property outright or for trails, this, puts a extra demand on their capacity. So it's important for us to coordinate with them and make sure that we're all working together so that they're adequately staffed and funded to take over the acquisitions. Once we, complete them in the Planning Commission, they get turned over to the Parks Department. Next slide. Okay, and finally, our historic resources. So aside from the sites that the county manages as public facilities, there are other, Montgomery County is known for its rich cultural heritage. And so we support the communities that do historic preservation ordinances and have historic commissions or boards as part of their local government structure. So a lot of that work is actually done at the local level. And over half of the county's 62 municipalities have adopted historic preservation ordinances. A lot of them, a fraction of those have been updated within the past, since the last comp plan. And then in addition to the historic boards and commissions, there are also nonprofit historical societies that are the repository for community archives. So that sums up our county resources. I'm going to turn this back over to Bill to talk about our funding partners.
Hey, Donna.
Yes, Steve.
Do you have a sense of how many historic buildings in the county are in a state of disrepair?
Ooh, gosh, I do not. I don't know if any of our historic experts on staff might have a weigh in on that.
Or just anyway.
Just in general, because, I'm working on 2 projects now where, we're struggling to find an economic way forward in preserving the buildings. One of them's not actually listed as historic, but it's, it's a substantial building, and I'm just wondering how many of them are in disrepair or do we know whether they have been analyzed for whether they can be saved or not? So,
You mean buildings on the historic register, or eligible for the historic registers?
or the township deems as historic. Sometimes townships have ordinances that deem certain buildings historic, but they're not on the registry. So
That's quite common. Yeah, I think there's probably not, I don't think we have that data, but I will say that at least for county land, my understanding is perhaps the only one that's on a county historic site currently is Sunrise Mill. That is not up to, that needs to go through some major renovation, but I'm not aware of, again, I'm not the expert on it. I just know that is one that is not open right now because and has been open for years because it's not, it has to go through some renovation.
We don't really do much in the way of historic preservation. So we don't have any.
There's a prison down the street that we're trying to work on.
Is there a listing of all the county-owned historic resources?
Yes, Jonathan, that will be on, again, with the same web page that has the county trail map on it, the Parks, Trails, and Historic Sites Division in the county website.
I guess I need to look at that website.
I was gonna say, I know we have a historic resource survey that we've done or did or have worked on, but yeah, in terms of the state of each of those properties, of course, when you get into the boroughs, it can be, the answer is many can be in the state of disrepair, but maybe part of a national register district, but that would be interesting data to get, though.
There was a study back, I think in the aughts was the last time, and it was an external group or agency, not I don't believe the county, unless we helped with it, but where they actually did go through extensive lists and catalog properties. But I have not heard any effort to that since, unless it's been at the local level. I was going to add to Stephen's comment, though, and again, I'll speak to Lower Merion, who's pretty active in this arena. They've got a ton of properties, in their own Class 1 or Class 2 historic register. And really you have a whole full range of properties that are either meticulously kept up and maintained to those that need work. And part of the strategy, of course, and this isn't any illuminating news to you, I'm sure, but just want to point out, a lot of that zoning and the reason why they're on those lists is because it offers opportunities for more flexible development, different uses, even different expansion rules that are greater than might be in that district or base district alone. That encourages, or where the goal is to both maintain and make it feasible for the owners to maintain through added benefits that still keep the historical integrity intact. But
I would tell you that I've read quite a few things. There seems to be a trend to use historic designations as a way to control development, to limit development of properties. So there is I know in some of the things that I've been reading about, that there is an effort among using historic designations, whether they be local ordinances or in a registry, or trying to get them in a registry, as to stopping the expansion of any kind of development on those properties or in those areas.
That's been happening for years.
Yeah, I know, but it seems to have been ramping up.
Yeah. That's long been a debate in the historic preservation versus sort of development community, is the local districts being, whether they are an asset or an impediment to communities ultimately.
Well, we're seeing that with, we mentioned the prison, there's the base district is 10 stories just in terms of height in Norristown, and then the historic district limits it to your adjacent neighbor, which might be something like 5 or 6 stories depending on the location. And so that's significant, and sometimes it's not intended. I think you're absolutely right, Steve. There's areas where that's used as a tool or a weapon, and then there's areas where it's maybe more inadvertent, but has a similar effect. And then there's areas where, like I said, I think Lower Merion has the opposite approach, because there is more flexibility. We should work to get more codes that think that way, I think.
All right. Are we good to move on here? Okay. So before I jump into those 7 trends, I just wanted to mention quickly some words about our partners and our funding. So it goes without saying that our partnerships are really important to the work that we do. We couldn't do the work without them. We're involved at all different levels in all of our projects, whether it's during a feasibility study, engineering or construction of trails, or in the preservation of open space, and adding to our county land assets. And this Venn diagram just gives a representation of some of the organization types that we engage with, ranging from state agencies, nonprofits, utilities, the SEPTAs of the world, the Norfolk Southerns of the world. You can see there are many of them with overlap in certain areas among the different types of assets that we're talking about around the county. From a funding standpoint, the same thing is true. And again, it goes without saying that we need money to do the work that we do, whether it's constructing, engineering and constructing our trails, or preserving open space, or expanding our county land assets. And again, you can see all the different types of organizations that we work with. They go all the way up to the federal level, like we were just talking about with the carbon reduction program funding that we're using for the Cross County Trail, all the way down to municipalities. And obviously a really big important funding source for a lot of our work are county capital funds. And you can see in the middle of the Venn diagram here that that applies to trails, open space, as well as county land. So the trends. So these are the 7 trends that we came up with. We spent a lot of time brainstorming on these, and we feel that they're representative of key issues that relate to all the topics that we've been talking about here. And we tried to make them things that we need to consider, that we have been considering, that we're currently considering, and that are certainly going to be important in the years ahead with respect to the comp plan. So there's 7 of these, and just bear with me because I'm going to read the trend verbatim, and I'm going to make a slight mention to some of the data that you might see on the screen. But we spent a lot of time wordsmithing this, and so I want to respect that when we go through these. So the outdoor economy is trend number 1, and outdoor recreation is among the nation's largest economic sectors. Believe it or not, that was a bit of a surprise to me. It does drive commerce, it creates jobs, promotes healthy communities, and this sector of the economy has seen, and it's anticipated that this will continued growth at all levels, locally, regionally, and nationally. And the data that you see here on this slide indicates that the real economic output for outdoor recreational activities, and this is whether it's tourism dollars or commerce or money that people are spending on outdoor equipment, grew nearly 36% between 2012 and 2023. So, and it's anticipated from some of the data that we've seen that that trend is expected to continue. In Pennsylvania alone, there was roughly $19 billion of money contributed to the state's economy through the outdoor economy sector. So it's big. Trend 2, health and wellness. The health and wellness benefits of outdoor recreation continue to reach wider and receptive audiences. Active lifestyles continue to grow in popularity. And I think we all saw this during the COVID-19 pandemic. I think it kicked a lot of people outdoors because they had no other options for getting out and gaining some respite from all the stresses of COVID-19. You can see that the data shown here indicates that participation in health and wellness activities has steadily increased. And that's the graph that you see in the bottom left that focuses on participation, and that the health and wellness market has grown and will continue to grow through at least 2028. And that's those are the financial figures that you see there on the right-hand graph. And when we talk about health and wellness, it's a pretty wide spectrum. It addresses fitness, it addresses health, nutrition, sleep, appearance, as well as mindfulness. So it's a pretty wide-ranging topic, but it includes all of those things. And so when you look at these numbers, that's what they're representing.
Bob, appearance.
Yeah, people care about their appearance, apparently. Okay, trend 3.
Oh, that's why I'm sitting next to you. I look really good.
All right, trails as transportation. Trails are popular for recreation, but their use for active transportation is yet to be fully realized. We have found that people talk and use trails a lot for recreation, but are they really being used to their full potential as a transportation resource? That's a question. Funding for trails as an active transportation alternative has definitely expanded at the state and federal levels. Rails to Trails data does indicate that people support the development of trails as a means of non-motorized transportation. And trails as an active recreation resource have innumerable benefits, including allowing people to connect by walking and biking. It improves public health, which we've talked about already. It obviously would reduce carbon emissions, and it encourages economic investment, that is happening along these trails, as well as the local connections that you can take into communities from the main trails within the county. Trend 4, outdoors for all. So accommodating and improving access to and awareness of our outdoor rec assets is critical to creating equitable and diverse use of our trails, parks, and open spaces. Like I just discussed on the prior slide about trails as transportation, funding at all levels is growing, and it's favoring projects that address issues related to equity. Common and well-known example is the Regional Trail Program sponsored by DVRPC and the William Penn Foundation. Equity is one of the criteria that they apply when they're evaluating applications for funds from that program. And as many of you know, about 5 years ago, the county adopted the Trails Access, Diversity, and Awareness Study, which is a really landmark study for the county, and we've been actively implementing the recommendations were in that study since then. And data and research that you can see on this slide shows that challenges to achieving equity remain, and you can see some of the numbers in that bottom left-hand graphic, some of the challenges to achieving full equity, and that a lot of public park and rec agencies are striving to make their facilities more accessible and welcoming, but as that graphic shows, work remains. Work is being done here, challenges remain to get it done, and but it's pretty clear that local agencies are committed to doing this and continuing to pursue it, kind of ignoring the current political climate. Okay, trend 5, environmental and economic benefits. So the environmental benefits of open space and parkland are very well documented. An example being the return on investment study that the county recently did a couple of years ago. The impacts of climate change continue to reiterate the value of open space as a mitigation measure. And that list on the left there represents some of the environmental benefits of open space: air pollution removal, protecting our water supply, improving our water quality, mitigating floods, providing habitat for wildlife, and of course, carbon sequestration and storage. And then the economic benefits, again, reiterated in the 2022 Return on Investment study, have also been proven. Increases in home and property values were shown in the Return on Investment study. As I discussed earlier, open space promotes economic activity within those open spaces, but also adjacent to them. Environmental services, like the ones that I just described on the left-hand side of the screen there, also provide economic benefit. And then, of course, there are direct use benefits when you look at things like the recreation sector and keeping people out of hospitals and active at work. So the environmental and economic benefits are pretty well proven when you talk about open space. Trend 6, technological innovations. Technological innovations related to recreation continue to grow in popularity. Probably the two most well-known and seen innovations are e-bikes and fitness trackers. I don't know how many people in the room right now or on this meeting have a fitness tracker on right now or use one when they exercise, but they are very popular. E-bikes, as we all know and see, are becoming more and more popular. Location-aware application data is also out there. This means what I'm talking about here is the ability to buy data that's gathered from some of these apps that would allow you to track where people came from when they come to a trail or an open space, and even where they go to after using a trail or some open space. There are propriety and privacy issues related to using that kind of data, but we want to put that in here because it is something that's growing in popularity and obviously would be beneficial to have some data related to those things to understand how people are using our spaces, where they're coming from, and then where they're going. So the data clearly shows that fitness tracker and e-bike sales continue to soar, and you can see that in both of these graphs on this slide. I mean, if you look at e-bikes on the right-hand side there, you can see that just in the past 4 years, e-bike sales have essentially quadrupled, and there's no expectation that that would slow down. And then finally, farmland evolution. And Steve alluded to some of this when he talked about farmland preservation earlier, but as the cost of farming continues to rise and farmers seek new ways to support their operations, farmland across the county is evolving to include new and alternative practices in addition to what we would call conventional commodity crop production like corn or soybeans. And how these innovations and evolving practices will affect our farmland preservation efforts will be an important part of our goals and recommendations in the comp plan. And as Steve said, things like farm stands, hay rides, corn mazes, pick your own, all of those alternative sources of revenue are continuing to grow and evolve. So this is an important topic we want to be sure we address. All right, so before we jump into the vision statements, I'm going to flip this quickly back to Chloe, and then we'll go into those vision statements.
Right, so you've seen a version of this before, but it's different now as we have continued to work on how are we thinking about the policy content we're putting into this plan, what kinds of, how are we going to organize what we are actually saying in the plan. So here's where we are now. First, we lay out a vision for 2050. What do we want 2050 to look like? How do we describe what we're going for? Big picture, aspirational, broad statements about what we think 2050 should be like and what we're hoping for. Then we lay out some goals. What types of things do we want to happen? They're more specific. Many may be measurable. And then the recommendations are really action steps. And that's where we get into what does the county have the power to do? What does the county government have the power to do to move the county in the direction of this vision that we have for 2050? So we're working on all of these in all of these different topics. And today what you're going to see is this highest level related to the content that you just heard about. So what is the vision for 2050? Can we describe what we want 2050 to be like in terms of farmland and historic preservation and open space, county-owned land? What is our vision there? So that's what you're seeing today, and we are working on the other things too. That's all.
Got it.
Okay, so before I flip to the next slide, these slides are really simple. They just have the vision statement. Chloe and others, Ann and Scott, I think the intent here is for this to be a source of discussion with the board to hear your reactions to these vision statements. We're happy to answer questions, but I want this to be a robust conversation about these. Just time-wise, we have about 20 minutes left. There are 5 vision statements. Not that each one needs to be 4 minutes, but I just want to make sure we can get through these so we're not cramming 2 into the last 3 minutes of our time available. So with that, we're going to jump into our vision statements. First one being trails. And the statement is, in 2050, the county will have a multi-purpose trail system that is accessible and well-connected.
Good. Don't we already have that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, our view on trail development is that there's always work to do.
Sure.
When you talk about accessibility, you can be talking about local trail connections. You can also be talking about accessibility in terms of it making it available to people of all abilities. Well-connected, again, is talking about those local connections, but also connecting out, to trails that sit on the county boundaries, as well as among our primary trail network trails. So I don't think that we can say that it's fully accessible or fully connected.
Cross-county trails, an example of one that's not fully connected at this point, but if you're just doing the Schuylkill River Trail of Perkiomen, that's, you can go to Green Lane to Philadelphia, and that's well connected and accessible. But you're thinking of some of the other places where we have pieces, they're not. There's pieces that are missing, sure.
So should that be said that it's
Well, that would then
that
be a
it's
goal.
fully accessible and well connected, or?
I don't know.
I'm
I
trying.
like the question. I feel like it could be maybe stated in a slightly more ambitious way.
That's what I was just gonna say, more of a aspirational type vision statement as opposed to a statement that is sorry to use the word, but connected to what we're already accomplishing. So that's my thought on this vision statement. I think I understand what you're trying, I understand where you're headed with it. I want it to be more visionary and more forward thinking. I mean, we're already working towards the accessibility and the connection to the trail system. You know, the vision statement should maybe talk about being fully accessible and achieve the goals of connecting whatever. I mean, I think we can come up with different statements, but I think it should be more aspirational is my thought.
Steve, just to add, and it's a good point, and just to add a little bit of context, and we've had a lot of debates internally that revolve around what you just said. In some ways, I think where we seem to have settled for now is that our vision statements tend to be pretty broad like this, because when we get to the goals and then the recommendations, that's where we start to put in some of the more visionary, more specific things that you were saying. So right now you just have vision up on the screen.
Yeah, but I don't think this is broad. I think this vision statement here, to me, it seems like we're already working towards the accessible and well-connected trails, multi-purpose trail system in the county. I mean, that's been as Bill has said, I mean, it's been a goal and we've been very successful, you know, through many people's efforts to expand the trail system in the county. And I think we've done a great job, but there's more to do. And that should be the vision statement.
I mean, maybe that's what it is. You add the word more in there.
Well, whatever it is, but you know.
Trail system.
I've said enough.
No, it's a good point. I'm just pointing out that we don't have the goals and the recommendations yet, which might feed into the context of this.
Yeah.
And build a bigger picture. But
Yeah, I don't want to get too much more detailed in the vision statement. I just want it to be more aspirational.
I don't hear you asking for a lot of detail to this.
Well, one other thing that, you know, to Stephen's comment is that Montgomery County has already been seen regionally and nationally as a leader in trail development. So I think putting that somehow into it, you know, we've achieved it and I want it noticed, and I want our vision statement to say we're recognized for our, you know, multi-purpose, you know, intensive, accessible, multi-purpose trail connections.
But does that go into a vision statement, or does that go into a lead up?
That's
a lead up in this section of the comprehensive plan as to sets the stage for what the county has achieved, and because we've achieved that, this is where we want to go next.
But it's not stated here.
Well, I don't know if it's stated in a vision statement. That's what I'm saying. Would it be in the comprehensive plan as a lead up to our achievements? And this is why this is why our vision statement is aspirational to expand upon what we've been doing anyhow.
Okay, thanks, Dulcie, for mentioning that. And
yeah,
it can go somewhere.
Yeah, John.
I have no comment on the vision statement. I would just want to add this. When we talk about connectivity, before it was said the trails as transportation. When I'm in my car, I'm going to the grocery store, I'm going to the post office, I'm going shopping. If we think of trails as transportation, trails have to get to these places for me to get on my bike to go there. So the connectivity to me is not just to another trail through a park, through an open space, but it's to some place that I would otherwise go in a car if I'm going to reduce my usage of my car.
Yeah, Jonathan, that's a great comment. And I think that maybe that specificity or that more specific goal would be something that we could talk about in the goals section, you know, where we're not just talking about connectivity amongst the trails, but to practical destinations for people like you were listing.
Right.
Yeah,
Because if you achieve some of those goals, it's not just to take a nice bike ride in the park. It's to not get in my car and get on the bike and go someplace.
That was part of the conversation. I mean, I know when we had the breakout sessions at the last meeting that we had, or advisory committee meeting, that was one of the conversations I remember in my group that we were having was about just that. It's the next, the vision should be not only just having well-connected trails, but also to figure out into these business centers so people can use it, just like Jonathan said, as transportation. And with e-bikes, it's a little bit easier to, buy groceries and, for the
Bring them home, right? Yep.
person to be able to get on a bike and go do something without having to get in a car.
just, Jonathan, I was just looking at what we kind of scratched down for goals for this vision beneath it. And it speaks a bit to what I'll just read through it super quick. Goals: expanded local connections, regional / circuit trail connectivity, safe new transportation, attractive to people. More people use it for commuting to work or school. More people use it for trips to places of worship, shopping, and other daily activities. So the thought is that then in the goals, we would get down to that.
Yeah, that's right on. That's a really good comment. Okay, I don't want to cut people off, but just trying to be respectful of time here. I'm gonna thank you for all those comments. Those were great. I'm gonna jump into the next vision statement. Okay, this one's for open space. In 2050, the county will have a variety of open spaces that are geographically dispersed with multifaceted benefits.
I like that. Anybody else? Thoughts?
if they're geographically dispersed, does that fly in the face of, being accessible, like bikes and things like that?
This is open space, so I think obviously, if we can connect open space to our trail system, then that's a added benefit.
Yeah.
But I think geographically dispersed, I think leads to, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Bill and his group, I think the idea here is that everybody throughout the county should have some easily access to open space that is either beneficial health-wise or just beneficial from them being able to enjoy open space without, being in an urban community or a developed community or a developed area. I mean, so I don't know that it's necessarily, it'd be great if they were all connected through some kind of trail system, but I don't know that it's necessarily.
In some of our more urban areas, those open spaces could be connected by sidewalk as well.
Yeah.
So that could, again, if we think of it a little more broadly, that there's other ways that we can get there besides a car.
Right, it could be a pocket park in Ambler, or it could be, 50 acres out somewhere in the western part of the county. So.
Right. Yeah, that's right on target. We were trying to get exactly what you're talking about. So that distribution or dispersal of open space makes it more available to a wider demographic and of people from different areas around the county. And right, it could be a pocket park in a more urbanized area, or it could be Camp Laughing Waters, which is 450 acres. We just want to make sure that it's spread to provide as much equal access as possible.
Multifaceted benefits is a good goal. Also, I mean, not all of it has to be pastoral land. It could be just what we talked about, a pocket park that may provide a playground set or something, just something that people wouldn't ordinarily have access to.
Exactly.
Any other thoughts on this vision statement from board members? Anybody else? Okay, picked up time there, Bill.
All right, sweet. Okay, next. Farmland. In 2050, the county will enhance its agricultural heritage by continuing to preserve farmland and support the economic strength of the farming community.
Thoughts? Anybody?
How do we do that?
I think that's in the goals. I think we're just looking for the
The overall
vision of what we want to see the county achieve by 2050, and then the goals would be how we get there.
If you're gonna state it in 2050, the county will have enhanced its agricultural heritage by preserving farmland in support of. But I think what we heard in the presentation is the change in the face of what activities will be happening on our farmland. So I think there has to be might be something in there that reflects that diversity in the use of our preserved farmland.
Like locally sustainable, food source resources. Is that what you're thinking about? Something along those lines, Kelsey?
Yes, but also the issue of the blending of agritourism with our pastoral farm fields. It's also having access, people understanding where their local food is coming from, people having the desire to connect with the farmers who produce their food, all those different components, not just a farm over on the hill that looks pretty. Our farm community will have changed.
You see a lot of these, like the trend now is, or has been for a while, is these farm to table type restaurants, but where are those farms? Is there a restaurant in Montgomery County that's, that talks about being farm to table, but are there farms in Lancaster, or are there farms in Montgomery County?
There have been some that they have trouble staying like viable. One point is in mainland, it's tried a couple of times. I think this last try was to be farm to table, be local farm to table, and it closed.
Yeah, no,
So, that's a tough thing.
But along those lines, just,
I think it's just what I'm aiming for is the recognition that the vision of what farming will be in 2050 may be very different. We may be in the process of getting there, but we're not quite sure what it's going to be, but we're going to embrace it and encourage it to keep these as active agricultural. The other thing is that there was always, I didn't hear it discussed, the importance of having access to locally produced food. For security reasons, that's
kind of where I was headed.
Yeah.
Local, sustainable food source, and along the same lines.
And I think actually this is a vision that I don't know what the goals are that they set again, but I do think that the work that Steve and the team have been doing already with having the annual thing with the farmers, there's a map that's already been published. I think this is one that there's a lot that's already been worked on, and that team is probably going to try to have some creative brainstorming on more of what they can do to do that. So.
Yeah, and the Food Policy Council, which just initiated in January fully, is a big part of that. So our plan, to Dulcie's point, which is great, our plan needs to reflect that. I think the actions are ahead of the plan in this case, but and I think it fits even within this vision as is, the economic strength, really, the goals can address those specific things towards agritourism that I think fall within that. But that's good comment.
Yeah, it is. Thanks, Dulcie. Okay, are we okay if we jump to the next one?
Okay. Anybody else has anything else? I think you're good.
Okay. All right, so for parks, in 2050, the county will have outdoor parks and recreational spaces appealing to an array of interests for people of all ages and abilities.
Okay. Do we not already have that?
Well, you're kind of asking what you asked about trails. Like, do we need to make this more appealing? I don't know the answer to that question. That's a question that we should answer, but you're bringing up the point of, is this creating enough ambition?
Well, I also think when you have recreational spaces appealing and welcoming to all arrays of interests, or whatever the changes is in words there, but I think that's really important.
The welcoming difficulty?
Well, I think that people have to feel welcomed to our parks.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we need to add that reflection as in some of the other vision statements about the geographic location diversity to this statement.
Good point.
And I think it's, once again, I would try to craft this more along the lines of being aspirational. And what that specifically is, what's missing in our, and I'm not necessarily looking for an answer, but the way I think about it is what's missing in our park system and our, current parks or current geography of parks or current availability of parks, and what are we trying, what should we be filling in the next, 25 years to achieve, what are those goals to enhance the park system in the county in the next 25 years that we're currently not providing?
Yes, somehow get the word out to the general public that maybe the pocket, for instance, a pocket park is in Ambler where you can take your grandchildren. Or there's a passive park in Green Lane that, with plenty of parking and handicap accessible, things of that nature, that a lot of people don't know of. And I mean, we know about it because we're aware of what's on the, and the Montgomery County Planning Commission mapping and everything else. But I mean, the general public, I think, really.
Well, it comes down to marketing and communication about all the things that we're going to be putting into this plan. And I think we're going to have to do some work on that. And I think as we progress on drafting and a lot of even, editing by committee is really hard. So I think we're getting some ideas from the vision statements, and I think then we're going to work hard to take some of that and add more energy and more bolder aspirational ideas in the vision. That's what I would like to see.
That's where I was headed with my comment on the vision statement.
Yes, I know, Stephen. It's very beige. Very beige. I said it's very beige.
Beige.
Yeah, I would want, is there something out there? I mean, I'm sure there is, because we can always aspire to, create a better park system. What does that mean? And that should go, to me, that's what should go into the vision statement for the park system is we want X, because right now we don't have enough X or we don't have any X.
But again, I mean, just to restate what I said before, there's goals and there's recommendations that fall underneath this. And sometimes, as we've been debating internally, what's a goal, what's a recommendation in particular? Sometimes you list one and you're like, it could be the other. But those things are where we really get into the meat of what that means.
But we have the top, but the title here is vision statement. It's not goals. I think there's a difference between a vision statement and goals. So let's not get.
I'm clear as to what the difference between the two are, and
you're pointing it out.
And I'm speaking to the vision statement, which is
exactly. That's what I'm saying, Stephen.
Yeah, the vision statement should be, wildly aspirational sometimes, and
absolutely.
In the sense of the parks, repeating myself, is what is it that we're missing? Let's fill that gap.
Right.
And my point is, it's just different tastes, right? You could be very aspirational in the goals instead of the vision, or you could do it in the vision instead of the goals. We've had that discussion internally about where certain things fit and the lines between them all. And just because it's not in here doesn't mean it's not going to be dealt with in another part of this. But again, we're taking the feedback and
that very well may be true. That the goals that are being thought about are that more aspirational, but the first thing that somebody's going to look at in comprehensive plan are going to be these vision statements, and these vision statements should reflect the goals that are set out and why the goals exist.
Yeah, this is good feedback. I think we can go to the last one.
And I just wanted to share one thing about this statement that a little sneaky maybe on our part, but we said outdoor parks and recreational spaces. And the reason we set it out like that is we brought up as a topic the need for indoor active spaces. So, you know, one thing like I think could be wonderful is the Trail Junction Center could have tumbling mats for those really hot, blistering hot days, or for the snowy cold days. So there's a lot of discussion now about having recreational spaces that can deal with climate change and providing those kinds of activities. So that's why we said outdoor parks and then recreational spaces. I just wanted to divulge that.
Yeah, that's true. Thanks, Ellen. Okay. Last one here, historic resources. In 2050, the county will continue to celebrate its heritage through the preservation and promotion of its historic sites, landmarks, and places.
So can I make an overall comment?
Of course.
Stephen? Yeah, I think Bill and his team did a really nice job on this presentation, but I'm going to be a little critical. I think it's very difficult to create these vision statements because in my mind, they're not visionary at all.
That's right.
They're not novel. They're more, the county will continue. I mean, you can make each one of these, the county will continue to, or do more of, or will pay attention to things that we're already doing. I don't have a problem with that because I think where the rubber meets the road is where the goals and recommendations are going to be. Because if the goal, like for historic resources, the county's going to commit money to do this and get this done by 2050, I like that. That's good. There we go. We have a plan now. But these vision statements to me just kind of fall flat, and it's not anyone's fault or problem because the county's doing a lot of this stuff already. It's just where we are on the continuum that in 2050, we want to be further along on this continuum. I'll get off my soapbox now.
Thank you, Jonathan. I want to just throw, I was quiet during the open space statement, but I just want to throw out one thing that I think we need to consider. You know, open space, years ago, we had a tagline that said, once it's gone forever. Well, the reality is I learned over the years, that's not true. We will be called upon to re-green spaces as we move forward in Montgomery County. As we become denser, as communities define themselves, there's going to be a call for certain areas to re-green, whether it's with street trees, whether it's taking a failed industrial site and making it into a park. Those are possible visions for the future. And I don't think we can, I think it would be ill-advised for us to not take that possibility for what the future of open space may be.
That's an interesting thing. It is something to still see.
Yeah.
Because that also has to do with the inclusion and diversity and access, you know, so just let's not forget it. Put it in the, you know, we call it in the bike rack, not the parking lot, in the bike rack for a consideration later on.
You're just in response to what you said, Jonathan, you're right. They're kind of bland and overarching and sort of umbrella-like. And we did our little scratching about kind of starting with goals and recommendations, and then tried to find a statement that would kind of sit over that and encompass what's behind it. And we're not telling you what all that scratching is, you know, and so you're left kind of like, what does this mean?
It's safe. It's very safe. And that's what Jonathan is saying. He doesn't want safe.
Yeah. I'm with Jonathan. I want to be more.
I don't mind the safe vision statement. I want action items that push us forward to 2050, not more land statements about we'll do more, or we'll try better, or, whatever it might be.
You're left hanging because there's those goals and the recommendations aren't there to tell you.
So that's why I'm not saying
Yeah.
that the statements are bad. I think they're very difficult to put together. But when the rubber meets the road is on the recommendation and action items.
Yeah, I understand that, but I just, once again, I think the vision statement should set out the tenor of the goals.
If I could jump in for a second, I think we're not done with these. We revisit these statements a lot, and I think that there is room for bolder language, but Jonathan's right. We are still putting together the statements that follow and the aspirational goals that follow these broad statements. And maybe vision is the wrong word for what we're trying to do. We need buckets to organize things in, and for the moment these are the buckets.
Yeah, you've hit on good points. There's revision to take place here, and we're going to talk through that. So this has been helpful. This is why we're doing this. It's helpful.
Okay, this is the last slide, and then I'll unshare. Anne or Chloe, I don't know if you wanted to talk about these things.
We can mostly skip this, as in, we just wanted to let you know that this is a step in the process. We have one more sort of topic focused presentation that we're doing at the advisory committee, and that will come here afterwards. It's called People, Places, and Jobs. But that another piece of this process is, after we talk with you, we have a internal staff workshop where we discuss the goals and recommendations and work on that. So that's coming up for preservation and recreation in early March, and we're going to keep moving everything forward. We can be done.
Okay. Got it. Anything else on this? Thanks, Bill. Thanks, everybody. Ellen, Steve, Donna, really appreciate all the work. Our comments are not meant to be dismissive of the work that's been put into. I think the fact that you put the work in provided us with the ability, or provided us with the information to be able to make the comments and the suggestions that I think some of us were putting forth. So
yeah, no, really appreciate the feedback. It's much appreciated.
okay. Next up is our Montco 2040 implementation grant program update, and I got Anne, Chloe, and David. I think David is going to take the lead on this one. So
David's at least going to.
Yes, I will. I'll just open it up myself and share it. One second. So yes, we are currently, sorry, I'll share my screen. I'm so used to Teams. I almost have to get into this. Could everyone see this or no?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, great.
Well,
Okay.
I can tell some jokes. Oh, nope, never mind. I was gonna
Here we go. Okay.
fill that space, but go for it, David.
So it's that time of year again. We are currently accepting applications for the 2025 grant cycle for our Montco 2040 implementation grant program. And I are just going to give a brief update, a little overview, and then some status updates on current grant projects that are still underway. So going right into that. So a couple of things new for this year, mainly stemming from our county transportation program not being continued into this year. We've kind of slightly expanded our scope of our grant, the Montco 2040 grant program. We've increased the budget from 2.5 million to 3 million, and the walk and bike Montco focus area is now transportation and mobility. So reflecting that slightly widened scope of possibly incorporating projects that were once, funded under, or, criteria under the county transportation program. So those are the main changes. This year applications are due March 3rd. So that's coming up quick. As you know, municipalities are the only eligible applicants. They can partner with private or nonprofit organizations, though, or they can partner with other, they can apply it with other municipalities for a multi-municipal application. Grants are, the minimum grant award is $10,000, and that can go up to $250,000 for individual applicants or $350,000 for multi-municipal projects. Most grant awards will require a 20% match. Open space projects require 50%. We also have a guideline where municipalities whose median household income is below 80% of the county's median household income are eligible for a reduced match of 10%. We currently have 16 municipalities this year that qualify for that reduced match, and they are listed in the guidebook along with the income related information on that. And of course, projects have to be completed within 36 months of the award. Since the program's inception, of course, this came out of the Montco 2040 comp plan. Since 2016, we've received 228 applications totaling $31.4 million in requests. Of that, 140 grants have been awarded for $17.7 million in award money, with the average grant being a little over $126,000. So far, 53 municipalities have received funding. Obviously, as you can tell by the number of applications, that's quite a few municipalities have received multiple grant awards, and we'll see that in the map in the next slide. So yeah, here is a distribution of all the grants that were awarded from 2016 through last year. You can see there's several municipalities that have received as many as 5 to 6 grants during that time. And we also currently have 9 municipalities that have not received a grant yet. This doesn't necessarily mean that they have never applied, but they have not had a grant yet. We have received this year some inquiries from New Hanover for a project, and we understand that they do plan on applying. So, we could very well see a first-time municipality get a grant awarded. So that could certainly change. And the focus categories, so just a breakdown of how these play out each year. Obviously, our focus categories they're optional criteria that an applicant can align their project with, but it does mean they get priority in their evaluation. The walk and bike Montco focus category, or I should say the formerly walk and bike Montco category, has overwhelmingly been the most common focus area that applicants have centered their projects on. $8.3 million in, and this is out of all of the awarded grants, of course, this graph right here. So that's been the most common, followed by adaptation and resiliency, and then supporting downtowns. Those three really have been the primary focus areas throughout the duration of most of the program. And now Anne is going to give us some status updates on current projects still underway.
Okay. In case you hadn't put 2 and 2 together, I am transferring the oversight of this grant program over to David and Chloe. So going forward, they're the ones who are taking in the applications and reviewing them and lining them all up for you as grant committee members potentially to review going forward. But I'm the one that has been overseeing it up until recently. I'm the most familiar with the projects and what's been completed. So I'm going to run through the projects that have been completed over the last year. There are a lot, and I see that we are running short on time. Sorry, Scott, I'll keep this as brief as possible. All right, so first up, Horsham has a project dating back to 2019 for lighting in the business park. Next slide. It looks like this. They installed some nice new pedestrian scaled lights in their business park. This took a while to get all of the pieces together, to get all the funding together, but it is done, and I thought it looked pretty good, so I'm sharing some pictures here. The only other outstanding project from 2019 is for some stormwater management projects in Cheltenham Township. That has gone through a lot of revisions, some scaling back due to increasing costs. It is not done yet, but I hope that next year I'll be able to tell you that Cheltenham has installed these various improvements. I believe that this is underway. They have plans that have been drawn up that we've looked at. They're just not there yet. Next slide. 2020 grants. So we've got, yeah, just pause here for a second. We had one project that was withdrawn over the last year from this round, an intersection realignment in Hatboro, but we've got two projects that did wrap up. Next slide. I'm going to mess this up. Wallakamiki Park, which honors the Lenni Lenape Native American tribe that once had ownership of this area. I guess maybe ownership's not the right word, but I think you know where I'm going with this. But Collegeville installed a new boat ramp, an access point here to the Perkiomen Creek, using funds from our grant program in partnership with the Perkiomen Watershed Conservancy. They are also in a separate project that is the Conservancy is installing wayfinding signage for the water trail that's here. That's what you see on the bottom right. That signage installation is still underway and has not quite wrapped up yet, but it is almost there. This took funds from both 2020 and 2022, but this was a nice project that got a nice ribbon cutting ceremony over the summer. Next slide. Also getting funds from 2 different years of this funding program is the Bethlehem Pike Pedestrian Improvement Program. People are taking notice because I got a call from someone in Lower Gwynedd yesterday asking if we could pay for a sidewalk installation in front of his house, to which I said no. But people are taking notice. The township took funds from the program to install new sidewalks and pedestrian bridges on both sides of the road. This is part of a much larger pedestrian improvement project along Bethlehem Pike to make it more pedestrian and bicyclist friendly. And when Scott and I attended the ribbon cutting, we got a visit by a nearby resident with a dog. They said that they love walking through there, so that was nice to see this already getting put to use. Next. All right, 2021. All of these blue lines are projects that are completed from last year, with one Upper Gwynedd that just is like wrapping up now. So that's good. You'll see that in next year's presentation. So we're going to just keep going. Lansdale is first up with the Whites Road Park Facilities Improvement. Next slide. Okay, this was a project that underwent some revisions. We provided funds for this pavilion that was installed quite a while ago, but also this bathroom, which was originally, if you recall, supposed to be a waterless bathroom. We're intrigued by the idea of having an environmentally friendly bathroom, but then Lansdale decided, and rightfully so, that having a waterless bathroom could be challenging to clean the waterless bathroom. But going to have water lines installed. We approved that scope change, but they're just waiting to acquire the funds to get everything installed properly. But the bathroom has been purchased to be installed in the future, but the project otherwise is done. Next slide. Lower Gwynedd Township completed the Stager Road Penland Pike Trail crossing. You're looking at it here. It is an illuminated pedestrian crossing through this trail system. What you can't see on the screen is that the trail crossing leads to more sidewalks and a church behind me, or behind where I was standing when I took this picture, I guess. I thought this came out nicely. It is nice and easily seen by people who are driving through. Next slide. Pottstown's got a couple of projects that wrapped up this year. First up is the Memorial Park Bridge. If you recall, this was a bridge that was heavily damaged during a storm event. pushing, I believe, the bridge off of its pedestal holding. So it was unusable and unsafe, and the easy way to get through the park was really impeded by this damaged bridge. So it was closed for several years. This is the replacement. It looks great. They had a nice ceremony that you can see here. And this has completed a good pathway through the park for not just the people who live in Pottstown, but the variety of users that come to Memorial Park for things like their volleyball tournament and the Colebrookdale Railroad and so on and so forth. Next. Skippack Township, again, another partnership project with the Perkiomen Watershed Conservancy, installed this neat stepping stones project at Lenape Park. I believe this is a fairly new park in the township, but there are, if you can find your way to the stepping stones, it's kind of cool. I did not fall in, and I've managed to get across and back to take these pictures. It is a nice little park with a disc golf course and some nice walking trails, and the funds from the program went to install the stepping stones across the creek, connecting into county park assets as well. Next. Okay, Springfield Township completed the Walnut Avenue Walkway project. This is a multi-purpose pathway that runs along the side of the Sandy Hill Country Club between Orland Mill Road and Sandy Run Park. There are some crosswalk improvements that were installed as well, and this gives people pedestrian access to some township amenities. And I believe there are, we did see an application from the township to continue this walkway under the SEPTA railroad tracks that are adjacent, but I'm not sure they're quite ready to move forward with that. We did not approve that part 2 phase for funds. Next. Upper Moreland Township completed this restoration project in Farmstead Park. This is an old carriage house. I believe it dates back to the 18th century, and our funds went toward some pretty serious renovation work. Again, increasing costs had to scale this project back a little bit, but there's new roof and other woodwork that was installed on the carriage house. It's used by township residents and other organizations for meeting space, but it is not a year-round facility, but there's some nice craftsmanship that went into this historic preservation work. Next. Woodpayne Township is continuing with their trail work. This is the Pico Trail extension, which runs from Wentz Road to the Wentz Run Park Trail. Ultimately, this is going to connect into the Route 202 trail and the larger township network. This project had to be rethought a little bit with the changing guidelines that Pico has for putting trails through their power corridors, but ultimately the township was able to see this through to completion. All right, moving on to projects from 2022. Okay, again, lots of projects that are wrapping up, and I'm going to jump right into this with Abington Township. Abington had 2 projects kind of combined together for a safe routes application. First project, which is on the left, is at Overlook Elementary School. This allows for safe pedestrian crossings for kids who are walking to the school. This is on Edge Hill Road. This one has been done for quite a while, but the more recently completed project is on the right. This is a new sidewalk installation along Susquehanna Road at Rydell Road, adjacent to the Rydell Park Senior Living Community. This gives people easier access to the shopping that's around the corner, as well as the nearby train station. Next is Jenkintown Borough, which wrapped up several projects this past year as well. The first up is, oh, I am not showing you the right pictures, am I? Well, you can imagine that Jenkintown applied for an extension to their school zone. And this is not it, so I'm sorry about that. But Jenkintown has a 1 elementary, 1 middle, 1 high school complex, and expanded their walk are, they're, they're school zoned block, but they have a sizable population of people who walk to school because there are no buses to their schools. So this project, I can send pictures later, but it is, to slow people down as they're driving around the school area. Next. Lansdale installed bike and pedestrian improvements at Stony Creek Park, including the bike pump that you see on the upper left and the crosswalk that's here. I stopped by this park on a random afternoon, and it's really pleased, honestly, to see how active this park was. There were people there fishing, which you see in the below picture. So it's nice to see this park being so heavily used. Next, Pottstown with another bridge at Riverfront Park. This was part bridge, part stream bank stabilization. Looks a lot like the other bridge I showed you, but Pottstown is really pleased to be able to provide greater connectivity to their park assets and to the general population of people who are coming through the borough on the Schuylkill River Trail. Next slide, Cisco Park. No, Commissioner DeBello did not actually go down the slide, but that was too nice of a picture to not include. We provided funds for basically everything but the playground upgrade, but the playground is obviously the main attraction here. We provided for newly paved walking areas and benches and other amenities for the park. This was very popular when I was there. My child was there with me, but there were lots of other kids there enjoying this park on a nice day. Next, Upper Marion. Hopefully you all know that their linear park along First Avenue is done. We just provided it with a Montgomery Award, but this was a long time project. So it's nice to see this wrap up. This provides off-road use to business park that is here along this corridor. There are new bus shelters that have been installed, new amenities like the ping pong table, as well as crossing signage and things of that nature. We did some shuffling around of the money for what we awarded to the township and the business improvement district, which I will get to in a second. But we're going to keep going with Upper Moreland Township and the Warminster Road sidewalk installation. This is just around the corner from Farmstead Park, but this provided new sidewalk along this bridge that was being, I believe, replaced. So there is now a new crosswalk there and sidewalks to give people a safe place to walk. Next, West Conshohocken is in the midst of a lot of upgrades to Mackenzie Park. We provided funds for new sidewalks and trails that go through this property, but this is just one of many phases, I believe, of improvements that are planned. Next, Whitpain's Core Connector Trail. This is the trail that I guess runs through the township building property, but we provided funds for crossing upgrades and new walkways to get, and I believe you can connect through here to the trail I was showing you previously. But this was a nice upgrade that I was able to go check out recently. Next, 2023 grants. I'm almost done. Keep going. All right, so this is what I was showing you accidentally before. Old York Road traffic calming. Sorry about that mix-up. This is like a lot of different mini projects all kind of wrapped into one to try to slow down traffic that's passing through Jenkintown as you're going through from Abington to Cheltenham or vice versa. It's got pavement markings, signage, rumble strips, a variety of things to try to slow people down as they are crossing through Jenkintown Borough. Next up, pickleball. We finally have a finished pickleball project to show to all of you. Let me just say, this was a big to-do in Upper Hanover. There were a lot of people who came out, that I'm showing them to you in the upper left, that were lined up and ready to play. This has, I think, been a popular addition to Mokobe Run Park. I've not been back since. I do not have a pickleball paddle yet, but it was nice to see so much excitement about this new recreational amenity. And then last, so this is again the First Avenue corridor in Upper Marion, but this is the money that was allocated to Upper Marion in 2023 was reallocated back to that the First Avenue linear park, but then was not needed to complete the project. They were able to, I guess, find some cost savings, and they weren't touching their 2023 funds. This is what they're proposing to do with those monies instead. This is obviously a rendering and not the finished product, but I thought I would throw it in here to show you what is in the works. This is, I guess, an abandoned substation that the Business Improvement District is hoping to transform into more of an art project, an artistic piece. So I'm looking forward to checking that out as it is being worked on. So last slide, March 3rd. I'm really looking forward to what David and Chloe have in store for this year's grants. I know I've talked to a couple of communities myself who are inquiring about projects, so I hope we get the dynamic group of applications we've been trying to push for. And that's it.
Great, thanks, Ann. Scott, you want to move on to the director's report?
Yes, please. Thank you. I'm really going to limit it to two things, but they're not insignificant. One is staff news, and I've got quite a lot, actually. In addition to, obviously, we'll be missing Matt Edmond. His last day is in the office is Friday, but looking forward to working with him across the imaginary line in some case, or the river in some cases. With other announcements, Tim Staub is resigning March 4th, is taking a job in South Bend, Indiana, to be closer to family. We'll also miss Tim. Has been very productive in his relatively short time here, but we will miss him as well. Drew Shaw is retiring. We're going to talk more about him in the future, not till April. Obviously, he's one of our longest tenured, maybe second longest tenured person still in the office. I just realized, look up the math, not quite 40 years. I've been saying 40 years. If he stayed till September, he'd hit the 40-year mark. Just saying. But no, we are excited for him, but also we'll miss him, and we'll talk more about that later. Other news, I'll keep it there for further out news beyond that. And I want to go to our newest planners on staff. I think they're with us today. Jeff Vaughn is the new assistant design section manager. He's a registered landscape architect with 28 years of experience in the private sector, formerly with Clark Catton and Ince. And both Jeff's, I think, in the room.
Yes,
you want to say hi?
Yeah. Okay, I'm good.
Nice to meet you, Jeff.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm looking forward to it. I grew up in Montgomery County, went to PV, graduated from there, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot of good work here.
Gotcha. Where'd you
And
grow up?
Penn Stater.
Schwenksville.
Where?
Schwenksville.
Gotcha.
Right behind Rolling Turf.
Great.
Oh.
Welcome.
And our other newest member is a transportation planner, Austin Davis. He comes to us from a regional planning organization in northern Massachusetts, but and before that worked in Portland, Maine, and went to Cornell, but he has connections and family in South Philadelphia. So I think this is a little bit of a return to some of his roots. Is Austin, I think, is online.
Yep.
You want to say a quick hi?
Hello from snowy South Philadelphia. I wanted to make it up there today, but weather kind of didn't permit it. I'm really happy to join this position. Join MCPC rather in this position. I'm originally from Virginia, but I have a lot of Philadelphia roots, both in South Philadelphia and in Burlington and Mercer counties in New Jersey. I also went to Temple. So for me, Philadelphia is home, and I'm really happy to join, and I'll be happy to meet you all in person eventually.
Meet you, Austin. Good luck.
Welcome.
Good luck finding a parking space Friday.
Thanks, Austin. All right. continuing with staff, we had 4 promotions in January that I don't think I had a chance to highlight at this meeting. Robert Cartier is now our senior GIS cartographer, going from GIS cartographer. Chloe Mohr is now Principal County Planner 2. John Lesher is now an Assistant Environmental Planning Section Manager 2. He was still Assistant Section Manager 1 before that. And Anastasia Summers is a Principal Graphic and Digital Designer 2. That one I just point out, she was a Principal Graphic Designer 2 prior to this, but her job role is expanded to include digital design, which is actually something she's been doing for a little while now, but we wanted to formally recognize that while still maintaining her graphic design value and work for us. Improving or expanding notion of GIS and online digital products. We really appreciate her being able to help us make not only with the detailed aspects of creating those types of products, but making them look good and have better user interface and consistency. She'll be helping with that. Okay, and we have one opening officially right now. The Trails and Open Space Planner is vacated by Brian Olszek last month. That is open, and Bill's currently initiating interviews for that. With Matt's departure, there'll be a little bit of reorganization here at the top, so that's nothing to announce as of yet. Further movement this will be a good year for restructuring, resetting, opportunity as well as loss, but I'm looking forward to coming out of it as strong as before. And Matt, and I apologize if I'm overstepping here, but I know Matt's unfortunately won't be available, but he's inviting people to come for a happy hour on Friday from 5 to 7, I think. If that's okay, Matt, I'm mentioning it now. I'm sure he'd love to see anyone who's interested in stopping by. It's at Puddler's in Bridgeport. And again, we're
same place we have our holiday party, upstairs, same spot. So you guys are welcome to come.
I'm actually taking my wife out for dinner for Valentine's Day.
I know, Eagles Parade and Valentine's Day. Fall third on the list for most people. It's okay. I recognize it.
Get some extra chocolates there for Matt. I think you enjoy that. And then let's see. I think that's it for staff news. Oh no, final staff news. Back to Drew Shaw. Drew's being recognized tonight as a watershed champion. There's an event in Abington. I think it's at the Abington Club, hosted by a group called the Upstream Suburban Philadelphia Watershed Collaborative, or USP. They are, I think, quarterbacked by the Pennsylvania Environmental Council, and they wanted to recognize Drew's role in the Wissahickon Clean Water Partnership over the years. Certainly well earned and deserved. So happy that he's being recognized. I know Patty will be out there as well, supporting him. So moving to my last item.
4:30.
Is just want to update you on the county commissioners. Tuesday of next week, there is what is building into a high profile state of the county address. It will be at the community college at 10 a.m. I think the email was recirculated. You may have gotten it previously, but we definitely recirculated it yesterday. They do ask for registration if you want to appear, but if you went to the inauguration of the new commissioners last year, it's I think a similar venue, large auditorium, and they're looking to announce a lot of, not only reflect on some of the achievements of their first year, but also highlight some of the initiatives and goals for the county in the year ahead. So I think it's going to be a fairly substantive announcement. Of course, we've been feeding our information to them, and hopefully some of our programs will get some mention. And to that end, we are now sitting at what is essentially called the chair of the commissioners' weekly priorities meeting to address enacting some of these initiatives and keeping things moving. We were not currently at this table before, so I think that's a very big positive. And Patty joins me for that on a weekly basis, and we're having both seeing some of the top level decision making and action, but also participating in that and promoting our own activities that can go into it, as well as helping to guide commissioners on important policy issues and opportunities. So that's all I mentioned. Stay tuned. You might hear, well, that's all I'll mention. That's all I got. Thank you.
Any, before we adjourn, any party comments from board members?
That's just me.
Got Dulcie, Jonathan, Nicole, Sandra, and then.
Everybody drive carefully.
So before we adjourn, I just wanted to pass along my appreciation for all the work that Matt's done for the county and the planning commission. And personally, I'll miss working with you, and I'll miss the important contribution you have continued to provide to the county and especially to the board. So I think you'll definitely be missed, and I wish you all the best in your endeavor down in Chester County. So. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. We're adjourned, and see everybody next month or at some event, or if you're getting drinks with Matt on Valentine's Day, your wife gonna be there? Maybe. Sure, I can sell that one.
Oh,
You can bring.
be a weekend. Come on, you can go Saturday night.
You can bring your family. It's fine.
I am probably bringing my family to Matt's parties.
I'm bringing my husband, for sure.
There's no way my wife is coming.
Not
Missing
a
a
shot in hell of that happening. Hey honey, let's go spend happy hour at Matt's going away party for Valentine's Day.
She's like, who? What?
Exactly. So.
Using the snow blower.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, anyhow, well, everybody have a good month and a good Valentine's Day, and I think that's it. We're adjourned. Yeah,
Steven, do you want me to jump on the phone real quick?
yeah, give me a call.